It's time for Mike Geary Show. He's ripping off Cullinane. He wants to find some fans to talk to, 'cause he's lonely on Saturdays. Mike was told to come up with something, and I guess this is what he did. We should give him some points for trying. Kirk wants to know what the point of this is. Just a warning for all you guys, you'll never get this hour back in your life. This is Mike and the Minifans. Mike is talking with you. This is Mike and the Minifans. This is Mike and the Minifans. Mike is talking with you. This is Mike and the Minifans. This is Mike and the Minifans. Mike is talking with you.
This maybe, I don't know if I should say this could be the last Mike and the Minifans ever, because things just aren't working here, or if I should just chalk it up to we've been off for a couple weeks, so we're knocking the rust off. But things not promising here. This is not a good way to start a show by saying that, but I'm just being honest with you people. Daddy may have to take the reins back on booking. Also, maybe the fact that it's Friday night, that's a little weird. But hey, we'll make do. We'll make our best. It's following up, however. I would call an all-time Kirk Minahan show, one of the great shows, and it was one of those shows where they've talked about how it's been a historic month of June, biggest numbers ever for the Kirk Minahan show. I think this is one of those episodes today where you kind of separate the men from the boys. You get a lot of people on board that were listening to hear some Call Her Daddy gossip, or the K Marco fighting, or the Ellie Schnitt stuff, or the Portnoy stuff. Today is where you get to separate the men from the boys. The people are there because it's the cool thing of the month, versus the people that are really here to stay and want to hear a man be mocked with ghost sounds over the phone. So let's bring on... Justin ruined this joke for me before the show, but let's bring on two penises. We've got Blind Mike's penis, and we've got Quantum Week Chris. Again, Blind Mike's penis. I want to say this is nothing against you, but the booking of you is unusual, because had I known we would just be looking at a picture of Blind Mike's penis, I don't know that I would have done it. And also, I don't want to kill the character of Blind Mike's penis, so I've just asked you to talk in your regular voice. What are your thoughts here, Blind Mike's penis?
I mean, I don't know, Mike. If I was any other fucking character, you'd probably be seeing my face right now. But
right. You just don't want to be associated
revealing
with
yourself as a penis is.
I understand that.
A little embarrassing.
It's not as bad as you think.
Is there?
That's fair. That's fair.
Is there anything else we can call you as the show goes on?
I just go for BMP. Is fine.
Okay, BMP. All right. I guess that's what we'll settle for.
He's our second.
We'll work
BMP.
on something else.
It's funny, yeah. So we'll get into it as the show goes on. But boy, Justin had a real tough time booking the show, and I want to get to the bottom of if it's just me or if there's something more at play here. But first, we'll get into today's show. What did you guys think of it? I thought it was I'm curious your thoughts, because I don't know, maybe it's just being in studio, but that's the hardest I've laughed in a long time with that Dale Ghost stuff.
I thought it was great. I watched some of the Dale stuff last night, so I was like one of the 15 people in the room. Okay. And so it was really hard. Like when Steve cuts it up, it's a lot more it's not funny, but a lot funnier. But to hear 40 minutes of them talking about ghosts, it's just mind splitting. And but yeah, I mean, it was hysterical. The funniest thing though was when you guys called Dale was incredible. That was I can't believe he picked up.
So lucky that he answered the phone, because 9 times out of 10, especially when you're calling a stiff like Dale, they're not going to answer. They're going to see the number and ignore it.
I thought so. That was obviously phenomenal. I think it was a pretty good week back, all in all. I think the funeral was very funny. It was a good bit. Yeah. It was just done really well. Matt had some great songs this week.
He did a big comeback from Matt.
For a week back, I think it was pretty solid. You got your ass chewed out earlier in the week, but on Wednesday. So
we can get to that as well in a minute. I forget, Chris, did you listen to EEI or no?
Yeah, I've been a fan since 2016, or Kirk fan since 2016.
Okay.
I've been listening to Dale Arnold since '95, I guess. Since the
geez.
A-Team. Andelman and Arnold, and so he's been torturing me for 25 years.
BMP, how about yourself? Are you a new Minifan or an old Minifan?
Yeah, I'm new. I was a stoolie. Well, I wouldn't say stoolie. Like I started fucking hating the site. Like it's just a shell of itself now. But
we'll get to that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, like as soon
How'd
as
you find the show?
Just when like you guys dropped the video with Curtatone and then those fucking men's pride parade weirdos. Like
okay, so right from the beginning.
Yeah, right from the beginning, I was like, all right, this is something I can get behind. So
I'm curious to hear from a guy like you, because in my perspective on this is always like any radio show or podcast I've been a fan of has their share of inside jokes. So it's either you just get it and eventually you get all the jokes, but you are along for the ride or you're not. Was a show like today, if you don't know Dale Arnold or don't get what EEI is, how into it are you? Like, how funny are you able to find it?
Oh, I mean, I was laughing my ass off, but like, I mean, Kirk brings up like those guys enough throughout the show where like I have a sense of like who's like a complete loser, who he likes, who he doesn't. So, I mean, it's when I hear like. By the way, did Dale say anything back to you guys? I couldn't hear anything over you guys making.
We couldn't hear either because we were. I assume he just hung up. But you know what? It kind of sounds like, and I listened back too. Like I tried listening again. There's some sort of noise, so I can't tell if it's just him hanging up the phone or if he says something. But I'd be surprised if he responded. But
yeah, I was hoping for a response. That was fucking hilarious.
But yeah, I do think the whole thing of the show's too confusing to get into. I think that's very overrated. I think it's hard to say because you listened from episode 1, but I think you listen to a podcast like that today. If you're a new listener, you either say I'm fascinated by this, I want to keep listening, or maybe it's not for you and you check it out again in 3 months, or you don't, or whatever. But I think it is overrated to say like, oh, they talk too much about people you wouldn't necessarily know. Would you agree with that, Chris?
I totally would. I mean, I grew up listening to Howard Stern just like Kirk did on WBCN. So Kirk's a couple years older than me, but like we both kind of listened to that. It was to hear that was like anything unlike you've ever heard before. And that was a whole world. Like I didn't know who Gary Delabate was. I didn't know who Jackie the Joke Man was. I didn't know these people. But if you enjoy the show and you think it's funny, then you'll spend the time to learn. And then in a month or, you feel like you're in the world. It probably takes, a couple of weeks to kind of get your groove. But then once you do, then you enjoy it more than you did even 2 weeks earlier. So it all kind of pays off on itself.
What I'm really fascinated by is, you mentioned Dale's been around forever, for fucking ever.
Yeah.
A guy that's been in radio that long. It's amazing the lack of instincts you have to not, and this goes for EEI as a whole. It's like this shit would have I mean, Kirk would still always hate Entercom and always fuck with them and always insult them and take digs at them and stuff. But I think it would be so much lighter if they played along a little fucking bit. I mean, look at Ordway, Merloni, and Fourier. We don't shit on them we don't shit on EEI in general every day. But when we're shitting on EEI, we don't go after those guys because they kind of play along. When I prank call them, Lou fucks with me and calls me blind and all that type of shit. Like, they have a little fun with it. It's amazing the pomposity of Dale, but not find a little humor in himself.
That's Dale, though. Like, so Dale used to be with Eddie Andelman, and even then he had a stick up his ass, and it would drive Eddie crazy because Eddie was very casual. Eddie was annoying too. Don't get me wrong, but but Dale always was very much like this uptight guy, and Dale was the younger guy. Eddie's a lot older than Dale is, and that's just who he is. He's just. I mean, you've met him. I mean, what interactions have you had with him, Mike? Have you dealt with stuck-up asshole a lot, or
no? Almost none. Semi-pleasant hellos, even if that. Like that's about it. Keith has been more the asshole to me. I haven't really dealt with Dale at all, but just in general, to be in radio and try to do a fun show that they would claim to do. It's like, how do you not answer the phone? Guys are making ghost sounds. How do you not play along? Like, I mean, maybe he didn't know it was Kirk, but I find that impossible to believe when we say it's Kirk Minahan, or when we've called him before and chanted "fuck Dale Arnold" or "fire Dale Arnold" or whatever we were saying. So if you play along with that a little bit instead of blocking everyone on Twitter, I think that stops eventually.
I don't think he's capable of that. Like, that's just not who he is. He's just this guy that just takes everything really seriously and just has no fun with anything. He's been doing that since I was 15. He's been doing that.
Were you BMP? Were you at all familiar with Dale before Kirk's show?
No, not at all. I had no idea who this fucking guy was.
So
but
this, I think this is a little good background. This is like a story that'll kind of define. Guy Gary Tangway that Kirk used to work with and is friendly with. Dale Arnold despises him because back in the day, Gary Tangway filled in on Dale Arnold's show. They did radio together, and they disagreed about Drew Bledsoe versus Tom Brady. Like, there was a debate. People forget there was a debate back in the day, Bledsoe versus Brady, who should be the starter for the Patriots. And one took one side and one took the other. And ever since then, Dale Arnold has hated him.
Oh, my God.
That's the kind of guy. That's the kind of guy we're dealing with. So for anyone out there that doesn't understand the level of douchebag that Dale Arnold is, that's the kind of pompous asshole he is. And he does come across as this nice guy. It's funny because in the past, I'll always say he seems like a nice guy, and Kirk's like, you're being fooled. And I get that more and more when I hear stories about him off air and just the kind of dealings I've had with him through the show. He's just a humorless fuck. And that's kind of everyone at the station, from Zarbano to everyone other than that afternoon show. And you heard it with Greg Hill today, too.
I mean, all I would have needed to know he was a douchebag is just today's episode that he goes fucking ghost hunting. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
And then he hears a banging noise and he's like, "Oh wow, there's ghosts here."
Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. Honey, was that you? Now, so Chris, what was that like watching that whole Periscope? Because we had the luxury of just getting the best clips.
It was awful. Like I would kind of pop in for 5 minutes. I'd type a couple of nasty remarks and I'd leave and go back. Like it was, but you couldn't stay the whole. It was the most. And that other guy, Fryer, he's very inauthentic. Like he's acting really.
Yeah.
Like he's pretending to be really scared.
You could tell in that one clip we played. In that one clip we played where he talked and he's like, "Oh, Dale, that's really interesting, but let me get back." Like it's like you don't find that really interesting. There's no way you
pretend he was scared. He was like, "No, Dale, no, say it's not happening." It's like, "What, dude? Relax. A, it's already happened. And B, shut the fuck up. It's just crazy. And C, no."
No. And Kirk has this ability, much better than me, where I listen to Lucy and I'm like, Lucy's been mildly nice to me. I don't love shitting on Lucy, but Kirk's got that ability where he's like, "Hey, listen, you want to be in the business, you gotta know what you're doing. Do you want to be one of the guys and fuck around, or do you want to kiss people's asses?" And that was always the problem I had when I did podcasts with Lucy. Is she thinks Dale's a fucking cornball, but she would never say it for some reason. Where it's like, if you're in that situation, how do you not make fun of this 60-year-old man who says, "I don't like ghosts; they scare me"?
No, absolutely. The other thing too I want to mention is, and this was, I'm surprised that Steven brings up. So the whole time Dale is wearing a shirt that says "Not dead yet."
Oh God.
Yeah. So obviously in reference to the funeral, but he's wearing this shirt, and then he kind of like, no one asked him about it. Like Lucy and Fryer were terrified to even bring it up, and he says the reason he wore the shirt, not because of anything that happened today, I think is how he phrased it, but because of this ghost hunter story. Apparently, the ghost might think he was dead. That didn't make any sense. But he claimed he wore the shirt not for the reasons you would think.
That's how he phrased it too?
Yes, it was very odd.
Oh,
yes.
I wish maybe Steve had that clip and we just forgot about it because of everything else. But I wish we had talked about that because that's a really passive-aggressive, bizarre. Well, I guess that's not that weird. That is classic EEI, a passive-aggressive, weird move. Just like Zarbano calling during the funeral yesterday.
Weird. So is Lucy fired? Like, what's the deal? Like, is she
furloughed? I think.
Okay, so she's furloughed. So she's laid off, basically.
Yeah.
Has benefits. So she's afraid to call. No one brings up what happened. Like, if you're furloughed, like someone should mention like what happened on Kirk. Like, he's wearing a shirt that says "Not dead yet," and everyone's afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. And if she's furloughed and this guy Fryer, I don't know what the fuck he is, but someone should say something. Like, bring up. You want to get people to watch your shitty show? Like, be honest. It's very strange.
You want to talk about weird, Chris? Especially referring to Lucy. That I have heard from people in that building that Lucy Curtis thing, which I don't. Do you guys know what I'm talking about or not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had talked about it on the show. The Lucy Curtis thing never mentioned in that building. Never once. Maybe they had a meeting that I cannot confirm or deny, but people don't gossip about it. It's not talked about in the hallway. It is never mentioned that this superior guy in management had a relationship with an underling and it broke up his marriage. That's never discussed in the building, which is the most bizarre. But that tells you a lot about Entercom in general. They just sweep things under the rug and pretend it doesn't happen.
That's very corporate, though. I mean, any corporate situation, you might find the same thing in, a giant company as well. They're just afraid to talk. People don't want to lose their jobs.
No, but I mean, it's not. It was never completely behind the scenes. It may have been, but there was no, as far as anyone knows, there was no discipline of Curtis or Lucy or anyone else that we know of.
That's
very
strange.
weird.
Strange that Curtis escaped that relatively unscathed. I guess he's whatever. He may have lost his marriage, but like professionally is unscathed. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of not that I really give a shit because he was always kind of a dick to me, but I do. When Kirk said he was starting to get a little fat, he did sound a little weird, and then he had that stint where he missed a couple weeks. He was on sabbatical. They didn't really say what happened. Very odd, and it seems like he's around some enablers that wouldn't really do anything about it. I hope Curtis is doing all right, as much as I don't really give a shit about him.
Well, the worst place for a recovering addict must be working with Greg Hill.
Oh God!
I mean, it's a disaster.
So how weird is it, both of you, that they just lied about the ratings? I mean, we broke it down today. When you hear that clip of Greg Hill, how strange is that? And I guess try and come at it from the sense of if you were just listening to that radio show, would you look into that at all? Chris,
if I were a listener, I don't think I'd know how to look into it. But I mean, did he think a 1.4 meant that they're number one or something? Looking at those ratings, there was no conceivable way that they were doing even well. AM stations were kicking the crap out of them. It's incredible.
Republican news radio was tripling them in key demographics. So it's weird. Why the instinct to lie like that?
So I don't think it. Well, maybe it's not a lie. So
that's what I was wondering.
Let's look at it. So he said 18 plus. So the demo then is 18 plus. So 18 to, like Steve said today, dead. So yes, 18 to 34, they're getting annihilated. 25 to 54, they're still losing. But these old guys that are maybe 60 plus, the Dick from Uptons, if you will.
Sure.
I could see them still listening to EEI and just having it on while they whittle away in their shed.
Yeah,
they're not going to work.
Yeah.
But these people also aren't being affected by COVID, so their commute hasn't changed. They're retired anyway. So maybe their listening habits haven't changed while everyone else has gone down, and that 60 to 80 demographic listenership actually is quite high. Which is obviously useless, though. No one markets them.
The only thing is, it's got to make up for all the other demographics and make them number one, 18 plus total. It would have to be, quintupling the competition, like the Sports Hub is doing to EEI, which seems unlikely.
Yeah, I guess. But then again, I think about the old people, really old people in your life, like your parents, your grandparents. People who are retired. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't even know the Sports Hub exists. They're really old.
That's true, I guess.
Like I said, EI's been around forever. So maybe I don't know. That's I guess where my mind would jump.
As a stoolie BMP, what do you think of the EEI talk? Do you get into it?
Yeah, I've got radio stations where I live where the people on there are just so completely insufferable. So I get and appreciate the sort of just absolutely trashing these people.
Yeah, the reason I think it's kind of universal when we talk about EEI is because there is, and I hear this a lot from people, especially when we were doing the bad radio segments, the people that would reach out. Every market, radio is dying in general. There is no, as much as Kirk was pushed out of Entercom and shouldn't have been, he was the last of a dying breed. He shouldn't have been in radio as long as he was. When you look around and say, there's no one like that. There's no one remotely edgy, remotely pushing the envelope. Even as far as you look at the big names, who are the big names in radio? Ryan Seacrest, Francesa. Other than Charlemagne is a talented guy, I guess. But even I wouldn't consider him controversial, really. There's no one that doesn't exist anymore in radio. It's all podcasting.
Yeah, that's what happened. Back in the 90s, you had, or early 2000s, you had Opie and Anthony, you had Howard, you had even Bubba the Love Sponge. Not for me, but he's an edgier version.
Or there were a million guys like that, whether their shows were good or not. There were a ton of guys like that.
now that doesn't happen. Well, everything changed when, not to get too nerdy radio stuff, but when they came to that agreement when you could basically own multiple radio stations in the same market.
Right.
And then everything got super corporate. And so what was that 96, 97? And that's just that's when radio died. Plus now technology, is, I guess, the death shot. But that's what happened to radio, right?
Yeah. BMP, what do you think of the Barstool talk? Are you, I think the angle we approach it, or Kirk approaches it from, keeps it kind of fresh. Are you sick of hearing about it, especially the apology tour like Kevin and Dan have taken? What do you think about it?
None of it's their reactions are not a surprise. Anybody that was expecting Dave to give some sort of heartfelt apology is just you're fucking. I almost said the R word there. Ooh.
It's all right.
Yeah, you're an idiot. There's no way Dave is ever going to apologize for anything he's really ever said or done and actually mean it. He said, if you wear size 6 skinny jeans or if you're a size 6 and you wear skinny jeans, you deserve to get raped, and then went on Stern and defended himself. He's not going to retract that shit.
No.
KFC's a pussy now.
Can I tell you, it's funny, the slip up you almost made, the R word. I have heard that used on KFC radio, and I believe I've heard it used on Barstool Chicago, I think. And that's not me outing those guys. That's me saying, hey, that's totally fine. I would defend them if they ever got in trouble for it, obviously. But hey, there's still some shit that's said that if the wrong person finds it, you're gonna get in trouble for that shit. There's going to be an issue, and you can't do this if it happened a month ago. You can't do this thing where I was just a young man. I've learned so much, and I wasn't the same guy. I look at that, and I don't know who that guy is anymore. You can't do that if you find something from a week ago that you maybe shouldn't be saying. So that's just what happens when you push boundaries, and it's amazing to me. Kevin is doing this weird thing. I think Steve retweeted maybe the best logic to what Kevin is doing. Maybe Kevin is just trying to put out there the idea of how absurd it is to think cancel culture doesn't exist. Because otherwise I don't see how someone like Kevin, someone who's in the world of comedy, doesn't understand it.
I think it's just because it's Barstool. Nobody gets fired from Barstool. So as far as he's concerned, he will never be quote unquote canceled because Dave's never going to fire him. Eric is never going to fire him.
Right.
So in his little bubble, yeah, there is no cancel culture. He can say whatever he wants, dig up whatever shit he's said in the past.
Well, that's why people should rush to the defense of Dave Portnoy, because the reason you can say pretty much whatever the fuck you want is because Dave doesn't apologize for shit, and Dave is out there fighting for everyone. Dave's not backing down to this stuff. So that's why you can go on. That's why you can shit on your boss. It's an amazing thing that no one is realizing. You can do all these podcasts where you put slurs in the title and say your boss is a racist. You can do that because Dave won't apologize for the stuff that he says. That's why you're allowed to do it.
Mike, do you wish you went harder on that DJM kid? Is that, am I saying his name right? Whatever.
No, because he's not. I do and I don't. Yeah, I disagree with him probably more passionately than I let on, I guess. But it's also, he himself says over and over again, I'm not an on-air guy. I'm fucking this up. I'm not phrasing this right. I'm not saying this is coming out wrong, which is why I got into trouble the other day, because I didn't push him. And that is, the more I thought about it, I kind of laughed at it when Kirk brought it up. But the more I thought about it, I was wrong in that instance. Bad instincts by me, because in the moment I said to myself, well, that doesn't sound like Kirk. So even if I don't think it's the end of the world, I should say, really? You sure Kirk apologized? That's odd. Even though I knew what he was trying to get at, but it is, you can't let people on and just say whatever the fuck they want and then go, I didn't exactly mean that. So that was totally wrong by me. But I don't know if he's the guy to go in on, and that's just not me in general, really. I'm not going to fucking scream at him even though I disagree. I think he did an okay job, and he presented some arguments. I was like, okay, I never thought of it that way. But did you guys listen to that and think I should have gone harder on him?
I do. Yes, so you should have gone harder on him for sure, I think. The other thing, too, is I actually have heard you kind of get angry with guests, especially when it's this topic. Because this is this is your thing. He's like, anti-cancel culture, anti-censorship, which I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, they'll have a couple of times you've jumped in, even when Kirk was having someone on, and you're like yelling about as much as you yell. And
I guess
this,
so, yeah.
I felt was very Barbara Walters. You know, like if you were a
Oh,
tree,
really?
what kind of tree would you be? It was much more. It was much gentler than I expected,
Yeah.
and I think he is well spoken. So this idea that he's not, I think he's using that as like a shield.
A crush, maybe.
Kind of bullshit. Like that's
he
not
qualified everything that he said during that interview, and to the point where, like, by the time he finished saying what he was going to say, like, I mean, if I were you interviewing him, I would have just been lost, like, because every answer started with, "Well, I'm not very well spoken, and I'm not confident," and
yeah, and that was the kind of frustrating thing, and why I didn't call him out on everything as much as I should have. But yeah, I think you're right. I did fuck that up. But you know what? The reason that might have been is because he came to me like, hey, I disagree with you on these things, but I see your point on this, this, and this. So he didn't come at me in a confrontational way. I think if he was someone like, I'm trying to think of an example. If we had someone like Trenny on, who wouldn't want to be on, then I think it would get more confrontational with me and her. But it was, I don't know, sort of a friendlier conversation. Also, I don't know if it would have done a lot of good for me if I had him on and fucking screamed at him. You know, I don't know how, but maybe it would have been. Maybe I do think I fucked that up a little bit, and maybe if I redid it, I would probably do it somewhat differently.
Yeah, I mean, like, so little things. Like, I guess you brought up like his text, and you're like, hey, I'm not a big fan of bringing up old text, but you did say these things, and he's like, well, I said it when I was 13. It's like, well, maybe you said one of them when you were 13, but there's like old texts that were brought up that were like a couple years ago. So unless you're 15, you're full of shit. So I guess I was just kind of surprised he didn't hold his feet to the fire. But then again, I guess I was just a little surprised in that, I guess.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
Kirk brought up I didn't bring up the Jamel Hill stuff was a mistake. But
right.
Yeah, it was not great. And I thought it would be an interesting conversation. I do think it was a kind of interesting conversation. I don't think we were ever going to get to a point where he saw what I was saying, because it got to the point where we were kind of repeating each other's. I was repeating my thoughts, he was repeating his, and I was never going to get him to see that, hey, yes, you were 13, whatever. These are things you've said. It doesn't matter how old you are, that someday we could live in a world where that gets you in trouble. And the guy you should be supporting because he fights for you to be able to say what you want is Dave Portnoy. And then he would kind of go back to, oh yeah, no, I say fuck cancel culture, and I'm like, it was frustrating for me, and I'm not talented enough to meander around that, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're right. He wasn't going to ever change his mind. I guess it's the question of like, if you feel that way, then just fucking say Dave's a racist, and just fucking say it, or don't say it, but pick one thing. And he kept trying to like play defense, and I guess it's then the question is how hard you want to go at this kid, I guess. But
right, how do you think of the response in general from more significant Barstool people? Well, I guess I'll specifically go with Tyler today. We talked about that a lot. What did you think about that, BMP?
I mean, if the guy doesn't want to, if he needs time, if he's questioning and everything that's come out, even though like what came out, Dave rapping like an idiot and some pretty fucked up, like a rundown, But I mean, beyond that, like if he needs to take time. But my more thing is like Brandon Newman, like saying he's going to be an agent of change at Barstool. And it's like, he just seems like a guy is trying to make it more about himself than actually whatever cause he's actually fighting for. I don't think that's the case. He would probably say hell no and, yell at me or chew me off, and Willie would tell me to suck a dick. But it just sort of seems like he's so into this, I need to be an agent of change at Barstool. And it's like, Barstool is so much changed already, and you're here. So what do you...
Yeah, it's clear. The guys like Brandon, it seems like, don't really know what Barstool was before. They just saw a good opportunity, and I don't begrudge him for that at all. He saw a good opportunity. He said, hey, I can get a job here. That's great. But I don't think he knew the history of Barstool necessarily and what it was before he got there so much.
Yeah, and I think Willie even said, like, the only reason that Brandon's there is, like, he knew him from some other area and just brought him in. So, like, that makes sense if he doesn't really get the world, but...
It doesn't. You are working there, so at some point you should kind of realize, oh, okay, this is what this place is about. But you kind of referenced it when we started the show. But as like I don't know how long you were following Barstool before you found Kirk, but as a guy who was considered himself a stoolie, what do you think of in general, from K. Marco to Ellie Schnitt to this whole thing? What do you think of the last month being a stoolie?
I mean, I've been loving watching Kirk just drag these people through the mud. I mean,
Right.
Marco is just, I mean, he used to be the anti-social justice warrior / college football guy, and that's all he did and posted smoke shows. And now he's this, I don't even know what he is. Like, it's just, you can't have Donald Trump Jr. posted on the website because that's too scary. But, you know, you can, a couple of years ago, like just before that, say, you know, hey, this 16-year-old girl's super fucking hot, man. Like,
and you know what's weird about all that too is that K. Marco and this is the case with a lot of people like that, where if there's been a change over the last 4 years, if Trump broke your brain or whatever happened, where you became more woke and now kind of go after people for jokes and speech and opinions, K. Marco would say today he's the same guy he was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, which is the most bizarre part. He would say, "Oh yeah, fuck PC culture," kind of like Josh was doing with me the other day. He would kind of tiptoe around his point and then say, "Yeah, fuck PC culture, but this thing bothered me, so I think you should have to apologize for this." And that's kind of what I think a lot of fans of Barstool are noticing with different people there.
Yeah, and that's sort of been like the line people, like especially KFC, have been trying to toe at Barstool is like, well, there's no such thing as cancel culture, but if people ask you to apologize for a joke, you really should. And it's like, well, what good does that apology do? And I think that's what your discussion with Josh kind of centered around where you guys broke apart was, I don't think we really see what good that apology is going to do. And I don't really think he could really articulate it. It's just sort of like this, an apology will help, but that's about it.
Right. Now, briefly, before we get to another topic I want to discuss, I do want to discuss all the cancel culture and silliness and Kirk's war with EEI, all this little stuff was merely a lead up to my battle with the Craniacs. And as you can tell, we're in the second half of the show here. I don't see them. They've been awfully quiet. So it seems like they have backed down. We're the new Cheers property in town, Chris. The Craniacs are out.
I'm glad to hear that. Can I say one thing about the whole Craniac War of 2020?
Yes.
So I am super excited to do the Cheers show with you, Mike. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It'll be great.
I don't really. Frasier sucks.
Really?
I mean, it's fine. It's okay. Frasier in Cheers is fun, but they took like the second worst character and made a spinoff of him, and it's like,
oh, you're not a Frasier fan, boy.
Really.
Folks, if you think this podcast wasn't going to have controversy, I'm a big Frasier guy.
I know.
So we are really going to duke it out once we get to. Well, if Kirk's prediction is right, we may never say the words Frasier Crane on this podcast.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll say Frasier. That's season 1, right? He's like an extra.
No, he's not. He's not. He doesn't show up until season 3, I believe.
I thought he was like at least in the background in like a cup.
He doesn't come in. 3? He does not come in, folks. Buckle in. He doesn't come in until he gets. He's dating Diane in season 3.
Yeah, that could be problematic. I think we're gonna get there. I'm like legit excited to do Cheer stuff. Like
I think we'll get there.
I'm really like I got nothing else going on. I'll fucking watch 2 episodes of Cheers every week. That's fine. I think people underestimate how bored we are, Mike.
BMP as the pulse of the rest of the Minifans. Do you think there's going to be a high demand for this Cheers podcast? I think we're cornering a market here.
Sure, Mike. Well, I'll let you live that dream. I don't know what you're going to get, but yeah.
No, sure. They may have boxed me into saying that I don't think there's a big audience for it. What I meant was, I think right now that audience hasn't been capitalized on, and me and Chris are going to swoop in and steal these people that have been saying for years, man, I love Cheers. But you never see it on reruns. No one's talking about it. Where's the Cheers conversation?
Blind Mike, I think this might be a $4-5 podcast right here. This is.
Oh, you're thinking subscription service?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I like that idea. Now we're talking. I agree. Turkey. I like it. BMP is producing this thing.
BMP, how old are you?
28.
Have you ever seen an episode of Cheers?
I have seen reruns, but like as a kid, so it never hooked me. I like obviously didn't get the jokes of like a bunch of guys sitting around a bar. So.
It's funny. The reason it hooked me is because
Yeah.
someone our age. I'm 28 also. Someone our age.
Well, of course you are. I'm your penis. But okay.
Well, yes, we are the same. We're the same age, of course. But that's the reason I watch it. Is like I've been getting into old. I've also watched some episodes of Taxi lately. I've been getting into.
Great show.
I've been getting into watching older shows because I'm kind of curious to see the differences in like what was allowed back then and what wasn't. And it is kind of funny to see like the language that isn't allowed then but is allowed now versus the jokes they were allowed to make then that would not even be close to allowed now. Like, Chris, we'll get into an episode of Cheers about how they tackle the issue of homosexuality, which was actually very, very progressive. I think we'll get to that on the program at some point.
Maybe we can bring Matt on for that one.
Yes.
But so Taxi, though, is a great example, though, of like a weird thing. So like Andy Kaufman hated doing Taxi because he felt really boxed in. He felt he was really like restricted and things he couldn't say. So imagine if Andy Kaufman was on a sitcom now, like he'd just be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Now, I hate to shine the grim reality on why the Craniacs are not on this podcast, but I think it leads to why I'm going to bring Justin on in a second. They reached out to me and said, "Hey, thanks so much. Hey, thanks so much for the tweets and everything." And I said, "Hey, no problem." And I was only going to have him on for like 5 minutes at the end because I thought it could be funny. I said, "Hey, no problem. If you want to come on my show tonight, you're more reach out to I tagged intern Justin, and they were like, "Yeah, we're actually recording, but maybe some other time." So the Craniacs fucking big timed us.
Yeah, so why? I don't know if you're gonna bring Justin in, but like, why aren't you booking the show? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. No offense. I mean, it's great to look at a picture of a penis while I'm doing this show with you.
I do like Blind Mike's penis, of course. Yes.
He seems like a very nice guy. But like, what's going on?
So it came up for some reason. Menders was shitting on Justin, saying I needed a producer and everything. Right. And I said, "Hey, Justin, if you feel free, like you can always tell me like any ideas you have for the show, whatever." And Justin volunteered. He's like, "Hey, let me start booking the show if you want me to." And I said, "That'd be great. It's one less thing I have to, there's so much on my plate already. It's one less thing I have to think about." But there have been a couple times where I think Justin just doesn't necessarily know who I would want on the show. So I'll kind of have to tell him. So it ends up just me booking the show anyways. But Justin, hop on for a second.
Can I defend Justin real quick before?
Of course.
So
Justin does a good job. I'm not shitting on him.
No, it's not that. It's that it's going to be a lot harder for people, or people are going to be less likely to say no to you than they are going to be to Justin.
That's possible. That is possible.
I will say, I don't think it's any coincidence that this week started with Mike and the Minifans having a little riff, and then the Minifans kind of saying no to Mike to come on.
Interesting theory, Justin, and believe me, that crossed my mind. That did cross my mind. I think this is maybe some sort of a rebellion. Now, Justin, I'd like you to go through not only the list of names, but the reasons.
The reasons. I have this all.
For the rejections for this week.
Okie dokie. So I started off with Ned Snark. I thought Ned Snark would be good.
This is the one that probably hurts me the most.
He said, "I can't. I have plans with John from Scranton and Blind Advocate." So I said, "Oh, okay. Well,
that is really... He's doing a show with a parody account of me. That's more important to him.
Well, an advocate of yours.
An advocate of mine, yes.
Now tell me if you think these names are worthy, because I know you said like, hey, make sure to have someone on whom I would have some chemistry with. So I don't know if you saw, but I tweeted out to MHB. I said, hey, you're more than welcomed. I think people need the trash talk perspective on this, so I think MHB would be a great person to reflect on WEI.
Back together, yeah.
He liked the tweet. He never responded. I DM'd him.
I'll say that. Here's a little note. Oh, you did DM him.
I did DM him.
I was going to say, maybe he didn't think you were being serious. A little personal touch goes a long way.
I was being very serious. Okay. I DM'd Dave Cullinane. I said, hey, maybe you can jump in. He said, appreciate the offer, but I'm good. Not up to speed with the show stuff lately.
Interesting choice. I do like Cullinane. That would have been an outside the box choice, I guess. Not bad.
Matthew Carano. He was called the MVP of this week.
Okay, that's fair.
He said, good. Hey, Justin, got something else going on tonight.
What the hell's he got? Chris, you must know. What the hell's he got going on?
Busy plans.
I don't buy it. I'm starting to... by Chris's answer, I don't think he's got anything going on.
I think he's like, all right, well, Chris, he knew I was going to be on, I think. I already had been booked, so I think he's like, all right, well, I'm not going to,
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know if I would have wanted both of them. That makes sense.
I reached out to Lauren Lynn, and this was a twofer. She said,
hurt.
I'm sorry, I am recording with DEC at that time.
Not really. So, well, DEC doesn't like this program.
So I said,
so
okay.
I understand that. But Lauren...
Why doesn't DEC like the show?
Oh, he's never liked me. I don't know what it is.
You don't think he likes you in the show?
No. I think DEC basically thinks, and he's not totally incorrect, thinks that I ripped him off. So I don't think he loves the show. But I love DEC. I will say, I think I mentioned this when I was on the Minifans show. I meant to bring this up to you, Chris. I met you were at Milton's.
Yes.
The store for men in miltons.com, and we were at the one in Chestnut Hill.
Right.
Check that out. But I met your lovely wife or girlfriend, I forget.
Wife.
Your lovely wife. Very nice lady. But I will mention that it really hurt my feelings when you said, hey, this is Mike. Mike, this is my wife. I said, hi, nice to meet you. And she says, oh, that's how you really talk? Just in a disgusted voice. And I was like, you live with fucking Fozzie Bear here. You're going to shit on voices? Like, what are we doing?
That's the whole point. The very first thing you said about me was you made fun of my voice. She was getting payback.
I didn't realize that. Oh, she was. This is deep. That was brilliant payback because this has sat with me for weeks.
That's exactly what
that really hurt. Wow, job well done.
Yes, I married her for a reason. She's no slouch.
That is a tiger mom. I respect that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, she really fucked with my head for a long time, and I didn't realize. Justin, were there any other rejections on this list?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I thought I texted Steve from Providence. Actually texted Steve Robinson. He said, I am busy tonight. Cannot do tonight. And I said, this is awkward. I meant to text Steve from Providence.
Not only did you actually accidentally invite Steve, he rejected us before he could even say, whoops, wrong number.
And then Steve from Providence said he's doing something with his kid tonight, so he cannot. Kevin from Bristol said, keep him in mind for future shows.
Oh, God. Now that, I'll tell you what, that one really hurts. Because by that excuse, you can tell he's got nothing to do.
Matt from Providence, the old co-host, said he was busy tonight. He cannot do it tonight. Do you want me to keep going, Mike? I mean, I did reach out to these people.
I'm enjoying this. Please keep going.
Oh, my, yeah, keep going if there's more. I guess we'll hear the whole list.
I sent it to a group with TJ Hubbard,
now we're going
JJ Clarkley, R.A.
Hey,
Minahan,
will anyone listen to me?
Tim and Canton. I said, hey, would anyone like to come on Mike and the Minifans? I got a response from one person in that group. That person is Quantum Week Chris, who said, I will be on tonight.
Oh, well, thank you.
I was trying to entice them. I was also in this group, and my enticement got no response. Like, they ignored it.
This really hurts.
But I will say, I also asked Nick, intern Nick, if he wanted to come on. I was really
Don't tell me intern Nick said no.
He said he wouldn't be home. So.
Oh my God.
But he said he would love to do it in the future, but on such short notice, he
I think it's the second time intern Nick has rejected me, as a matter of fact.
What happened with Will? I saw Will popped in real quick and then vanished.
Yeah,
what happened there?
Will, and then I asked Will, because I was like, let's go Will. So Will is actually in.
He's here?
He is here.
Hold on.
He popped in for 2 seconds at one point because he said his cat stepped on his keyboard.
Okay, well, give it a minute. Hold on, Will. Thank you for joining us. I guess I shouldn't be shitting on anyone. Beggars can't be choosers here. But holy shit. Do you guys think this is a response? Sorry. No, Justin, you did your job. Do you think this is a response to what happened this week?
No.
No? You don't think so?
I do.
Okay.
I respect that, Justin.
I think it's on a Friday, and then the other thing
Friday
is I think people are going to tell Justin no instead of saying no to you.
I think you're right. I think Daddy may have to take the reins back. I'm sorry, Justin. I don't blame you. I'll tell you. I think, Justin, here's what we do. We give it one more shot with you.
Okay.
I think maybe the old names are getting a little. They're sick of me, or they're a little pompous. They're all doing. Listen, Lauren Lynn's too busy. Lauren Lynn's recording her own show. Oh, I'm sorry. Ned Snark is on with John from Scranton. Those guys are too big for me now. I think maybe everyone's gotten a little too big for their britches. Don't forget where you started, folks. No one would know your name. Now I'm just taking over Kirk Minahan's mind. No one would know your fucking name, John from Scranton, if it wasn't for this show. Fuck the Mincel Intel. But I think maybe these guys have gotten a little too big for their britches, and I understand that. I think that's the goal of Mike and the Minifans, is maybe they go and flap their wings on the YouTube channel on their own shows. Maybe it's time for some new blood. What do you say, Justin?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be great if you had like another regular, kind of like back in the heydays, the good old days with the Matt from Providence was always joining you.
I agree. When you get some new blood in here.
Yeah.
So I think that's the goal for next week. Let's try and see if we can get some young bucks in here. The Blind Mike's penises of the world,
Sounds like a plan.
Justin, one last thing I wanted to ask you.
Of course.
This was brought up on the show this week.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you lie to me about the calls on Go for Geary?
So I don't lie to you about that. It's like, imagine there's one doorway.
Imagine, if you will.
Imagine there's one doorway and all these calls are trying to get through. And it will show up as like just missed call, but I'm not able to answer the call.
Can I say the doorway analogy breaks down when you bring it back to calls? You should have said, imagine there's a doorway and all these people are trying to get
Yeah, all these people are trying to get in.
There we go.
And, some people just choose a different door, but that door just goes to the missed call lane. And I don't lie to you about that, Mike.
All right,
I'm not
so
a
you're
liar.
saying
I'm not a
the
liar.
sheer volume of calls
It's
that I'm getting. I'm getting such a
enormous.
massive amount of calls
It's
that
enormous.
technology hasn't seen anything like that.
Correct.
All right, I respect that.
Google Voice, believe it or not, the Google Voice technology I use for Go for Geary is not as intricate as the call-in studio Steve uses for the show.
Right,
I have a theory. I think this is all a big setup. So I'm literally next to a fucking penis head right now.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. Like, this was
Fair,
set
too.
up.
Maybe Justin orchestrating this for his own personal yucks.
Am I being punked?
I don't know if you saw Justin in the Minifans a couple weeks ago, but that was for my own personal.
That was
use.
electric. That was electric.
I mean,
I was a little worried about my own stability here. If people were going to want me out.
It was weird when I was asking people to come on this show. They said, "Wait, Mike in the Minifans?" And I said,
Yeah, what's that?
They said, "Never mind."
I appreciate that. Blind Mike's penis. I'll go to you for this since you're the newbie. You're the guest. Do we bring Will on, or no? Do we just fucking end the show here?
I don't know. I do enjoy the idea of just making him come on for absolutely nothing and leaving, and he's fired. So.
I do. I kind of like your style.
Let's not be mean. Let's bring him on.
All right. Well, I did leave it up to you, Blind Mike's penis. So, Justin, thank you for joining us and bring Will on for a second here.
Fucking,
Will, what's happening, buddy?
Not too much, man. Chris stole the joke that I was gonna fucking come in with. You like if you were to, yeah, you. I mean, the beard doesn't change. If you were to shave your beard right now, you are BMP's avatar.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
We've all made.
I'm getting
You look like a penis head.
We've all made.
boy,
The, he looks like a penis.
How's it
and he's
going,
got a
guys?
penis next to him.
Funny stuff.
Will, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
How are you handling your? Would you consider it a firing?
No, I don't think so.
All right, because I have gotten this question a lot. Was Will fired? I'm amazed at the people that care about you. How has that been?
I was amazed at the people that cared about me too, to be honest, because I thought that I was a fat lesbian. But
You still are.
Yeah, I
No,
still
you
am a
weren't.
fat lesbian. I still am a fat lesbian. But no, I heard what Kirk said during one of the shows. I think it might have been the first or second one that you guys did on break. And I basically texted Steve and was like, thanks for everything, man. It's been an awesome 8 months,
So you weren't already, because you texted me the same thing. Were you actually let go, or did you just listen to that and leave?
I listened to that, left, and then Steve said, yeah, this sounds like a natural end to an internship.
All right, I
it's
respect
been
that.
8 months. So
Have you reflected at all on the reasons Kirk was upset with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And I was completely in the wrong. I actually talked about that on the show that you shit on, Minsel Intel.
Yes. I like those. I kid her. I like John from Scranton.
You did make John, though.
Oh, well, of course. Everyone knows. Actually, no, I don't think he was on this show before he did that show. So I'm probably lying about that. But what was I going to ask you? God damn it. I have so little
I'm
to
not
ask.
sure, man. You're starstruck.
I have so little to ask Will that I forget the things.
Do you guys what I've been doing?
We have such a big star on the line here.
Do I have any questions for? Yeah. Well, what have you been doing? I'm really interested to know.
Currently editing wedding videos.
Oh, that's what I meant to ask you.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to ask. Thank you for stalling.
Big fucking money, man.
Is there a lot of weddings going on right now in coronavirus time? Must be very busy.
Enough. He's going to actually answer you.
Okay.
Will, what? I forgot again. What made you talk about Kirk's salary? What made you think that was? What made you think you had any knowledge of that?
I don't think that I talked necessarily about his salary. I think I said that he had a nice salary, and it was something that Ned Snark had asked. He had brought me in because I was producing the Minifan mashup. You know, the Menners. By the way, that was going to be my excuse if I didn't come on. I was recording with Menners, but
that would have really hurt me.
It would have been horrible. But basically, Ned Snark asked me a question. I answered it when I shouldn't have. You know, that was, I guess, the morale.
So I have something to add here. So am I to blame at all for this? So right before this happened, Will and I were in that chat, and we were talking for about 25 minutes. I was very pro subscription service, and Will was against it. And we were having like a pretty, I would say it was a nice discussion, but we definitely, and then immediately after that you went on, I was like, oh shit, did I like stir something going? Like,
no, I don't think so. I think that Kirk just didn't want me, or I mean, if I really don't know shit about it. All I've heard him say is that he has a nice salary. So that's kind of what I regurgitated. And in my defense, I guess, of not wanting to go subscription service right now, I've just seen the growth in the past 8 months. Of the show, you just the amount of fucking activity on social, and you know, I don't know. I've made a fuck up there for sure.
You think it would keep growing? People have said that if the longer you stay at Barstool, the more you'll grow.
I don't think you guys have plateaued at all.
No, certainly not. I mean, definitely not according to June's numbers. But Will, thank you for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it. That's pretty much. Unless you have anything to add.
No, man, I love you, and thank you for being one of my internship supervisors. You're on my resume.
And I love you, buddy. I'll tell you, talking to intern Alistair Black there's not as much utter confusion and chaos when I talk to him. He usually just says thanks, and that's the last I hear from him. So I do miss you in a way.
Okay, cool.
Mike, are you gonna write?
I miss you too.
Are you gonna write a letter of recommendation for future employment somewhere else?
Absolutely. I would not, of the two of me and Steve, I would not be the one he should ask, but I absolutely will if he wants me to.
That'd be funny if I went to Mike for that instead of Steve.
Well, that was the idea.
Yeah,
Blind Mike's penis and Quantum Week. Chris, any final thoughts? Blind Mike's penis. I'll start with you as the first-time guest here.
Bag us a new mom this weekend, buddy.
Oh, we didn't get to that. Any advice you guys think I should take into my big lunch tomorrow? And do we think the Minifans will crash it?
I don't think
you gave too much information, man.
You think I did? I don't think they're gonna crash it.
A pizza place on the South Shore. How many people do you think are going to be driving around? Just
I wonder if that. I'll give you another breadcrumb, Minifans. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if that's true, only because I told Alba, I came home, and I said, Alba, I gave the Minifans a little nugget. I told him it was a pizza place. I told him it was South Shore. And she said, okay. So I wonder if she's fucking with me. We'll be in a Chinese restaurant in Peabody or something. I wonder if I'm being fucked.
I have a question about that. Has Steve gotten you those glasses yet? The spy glasses?
He is not.
Are you just going to go like backstage of MGM and just, I mean, hypothetically, if we were backstage at MGM and you had
that ever happened, yes.
Yeah, if that ever happened, if you have to voice record something.
So the thing is,
are you going to go that route?
I'd like to record myself because I think I'll be awkward. But I don't want my first meeting with my potential future in-laws to be me secretly recording them for a massive podcast.
Not even for content?
I mean, I'll do it. If they tell me to do it, I'll do it. But especially after this fucking how's your internship with? I mean, how's your internship? How's your very normal relationship with Latino Kirk? Is that still?
Yeah, it's still buzzing. He's also on my resume.
That's cool, and that's really normal. Reference. That's really awesome that you guys are friends.
Man, he takes me on free vacations. You know, with the
perfectly normal.
You know,
free vacations.
Yeah, they're free. They're absolutely 100% free. No favors required.
I will say, I just want to jump in real quick. And
yes.
Latino Kirk is weirdly obsessed with anal sex. Very weirdly.
I'm glad you jumped in with that. Me.
Thanks, Justin.
If you watch every single video he's been on these past couple weeks, it's very, very strange.
He's having anal sex in the videos? I have not seen that yet.
No, he was talking about, I don't know if you saw in the Minifan mashup, he was talking about how just once you get the head in the butt, everything else is smooth. And he kept saying this.
He does use phrases like
okay. I recorded him, Ned Snark, and Adam the Jew last night talking. It's premiering right after this, and
Shameless
the name
plug.
of the name they wanted to go with was just anal. I don't understand why. It had nothing to do with anal.
Will comment?
I will say, okay, I'll share one quick little story from Panola.
Okay.
We had a little balcony right outside, and there was a golf driving range, and I got to smoke a cigarette. Go to smoke a cigarette as I'm going to right now. And I walk inside, and Latino Kirk is sitting there in just a boxer briefs, and just one of his left testicle is hanging out. And I walk in, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, man! Like,
hey, you're in a safe place here.
Cheats
He
completely.
said, "Whoa, what's
off.
that? What's that doing there?"
What the fuck is your?
And he said, "Hey."
Also, huge nuts. By the way, huge nuts on that guy. Oh,
you know,
my God.
I really wish I went my entire life without knowing that. I really wish you did not give me that little tidbit of information.
Mike, is this the worst Mike and the Minifans ever?
Justin, you've produced all of them. Your thoughts?
No, the one where you took calls was terrible.
Is this second worst?
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's go for it, boys. Come on.
No, the first
do
one
it.
wasn't great. No, this one wasn't terrible. It was just lack of guests, and I mean that's on me.
Yeah, this one wasn't terrible. We had some fun by the end. We loosened up.
We did. The Latino Kirk,
It's because of the divide
testicle
between Mike and the
disturbing.
Minifans. That's the problem.
I imagine
I
a lot
don't
of
think
people didn't
that.
get
I disagree.
Will
with
interrupted
Justin.
me again.
I'm sorry.
Just
I'm
like
sorry,
old
Mike.
time.
I'm sorry,
Just
Mike.
like
I'm
that
sorry,
drive to fucking MGM. Just interrupted me.
You know I'm a talker, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yes, I hope Warden of the North has that Latino Kirk story because I'm sure many people didn't make it all the way to that. So I hope everyone knows that Latino Kirk, giant nuts. Have that in your image in your head now. Thank you, Will.
You right at me.
Thank you, Will, for all you've added here. Blind Mike's penis. Anything to add? I know it was a little difficult because you are in fact a penis and you're behind a screen here, so it's difficult for you to jump in. But anything you'd like to add?
I'm good.
All right. Will we ever get you back when we're scraping the bottom of the barrel? Will you ever come on again?
Yeah. Let's do another shit show again like this, and yeah.
I think you guys are selling yourself short. It was all right. Chris, your thoughts? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I do have final thought. So I thought about a wildly exciting aspect of our Cheers show.
Yes.
Feel free to do this as well. I'm going to rate each show from 1 to 100, and then I'm going to keep a spreadsheet, and then we can see which ones are in our top 5 or top 10 or bottom 10 as we go along.
Chris, I like that a lot. I like that a hell of a lot.
Is there a place to stream Cheers, or is it just you?
There is actually. Their first
right?
season is free on Amazon Prime, and the entire series is on Hulu.
Yes, used to be on Netflix, but not anymore.
Okay. Fucking hate
right.
Cheers.
Nice to really fizzle out at the end here, as if we weren't doing that the whole time. Boys, thank you for coming on. And in the theme of Cheers, Justin, get us out of here.
Another tough day at work today. Stephen Kirk, think I suck. Throw back a few wobbly pops, feeling down on my luck. And the interns ruin every show. But it's still where we wanna go. It's Mike and the Minifans. 'Cause nobody had any better plans. You wanna be with DC and R.A. Minahan. The host can't see it's Mike and the Minifans. And nobody's seen real MHB. This whole thing is a sham. You never see him pee, it's Mike and the Minifans.